Hey everybody, what is up? We're back for another What's Up Wednesday with your good friends Cory Camp and Brian McGill. Cory, how you been?
I feel the pressure of the holidays kind of coming on. I'm in that weird, have you ever been in that kind of weird feeling where it feels like the week is dragging on, it's just going so slow. I can't wait for Christmas to be here. Then I also feel like I don't have enough time. It's kind of like this sense of urgency, but then there's also something going, gosh, this week's really long. I got plenty of time. That's where I am right now. I don't know if anybody else can relate to that, but put a like down there in the video if you feel what I'm feeling right now.
It is definitely a weird feeling that last week before Christmas. I know for me, it seems like the week is kind of going fast, but I'm surprised it's Wednesday. But it's going to be.
I feel like it should be Thursday. I don't know why. I'm in my head. I'm a day ahead, but 30 minutes late today on everything. So
holiday weeks like this are very disorienting, Cory.
They are. Speaking of holiday weeks and just kind of the countdown, let's just talk a little bit and remind everybody, in case you needed a reminder, it is 8 days until the big Christmas holiday, 2 more days until winter break.
2 days and a wake up. 2 days and a wake up.
2 days and a wake up. Yes. I like how precise you are in that measurement. For me, it's just 2 days. But yes, absolutely. We are in full swing. My kiddos are all in elementary and intermediate schools. And so holiday parties immencing. My daughter's got a field trip to COSI in Columbus today, and then holiday parties the rest of the week. So it's exciting. And then we've got my mom is coming in. She's flying in this weekend. So we'll be hosting some family this weekend. So just pretty busy. But
on Friday, I am visiting some of the schools that are members of the civic community around Pittsburgh. And the Manchester Charter School has invited me to go ice skating with them on Friday. Yeah, I know. I had the professor pull out my skates last night. So he's taking them down to get sharpened. But anyways,
you played hockey back in the day, so you're great at. I am not. I hold on to the rails. I'm kind of terrified of falling on the ice because I would have a hard fall. But that sounds like a lot of fun. I think I might join in on a few of those Christmas parties. So, hey, speaking of the countdown to Christmas, and each Wednesday we've been offering a chance to give away some Amazon gift cards to kind of help you out with some holiday cash. We didn't have anybody submit their favorite video or favorite movie, Christmas holiday movie via GIF last week. So you still have one more chance to win it.
We're rolling.
All you got to do.
Extending. Yes. Christmas is extended. Christmas is extended, everybody.
Yep.
So I guess we'll draw 2 winners on Christmas next week. We'll send you a message. We'll send you private messages over Facebook to send you your winnings.
And we won't be coming live next week because we'll be celebrating with our families. But we're still going to give away. So, so you've been busy. Last night you had the RPLC webinar. Last night
we were going coast to coast with our friends over at Rio Rancho, and my buddy Stephen Curley from Impact Learning joined us as my co-host. It was really interesting to hear from these teachers on how this is kind of helping them change the way they learn at work, working with one another, and how the organic, I would just say, growth that's kind of going around this. And it was really interesting to hear Luana Coleman tell me, by the way, after this webinar, I got a couple more schools I need to talk to you about. So there was that's great, and what's really interesting is that it was a very teacher driven professional learning community, and they were getting essentially putting into it what they wanted to get out of it, and they were very engaged. I can't wait to share some of the testimonials from that in our Vidyard clips.
Rio Rancho has been a fun one to work with. And I remember when we talked with them after their spring pilot, we talked to them this summer. And that was one of the things that LJ said was, our teachers really felt comfortable. They really felt like this was a space for them and their own professional learning, not this evaluative piece, one that they could really kind of drive on their own. And they've done great things with that PLC. So, so yeah, so
Well,
people can watch the on demand, right? Just by going to
just come to our blog. You can scan this this thing on our page as well, and it will navigate you to there. But if it doesn't, please just go to our blog, and we'll also share the link with it in the Facebook chat today. So, are we ready for the main event?
Yes.
One of my favorites, one of the gentlemen that I got to go to the Learning Forward conference. He's been a customer of mine for a couple of years now. My main man from Kimberly Elementary in Atlanta Public Schools, Joseph Salley. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, he can't be your favorite because he's one of my favorites. So we're so excited.
There's enough of me to go around. Let me tell you, there's enough of me to go around.
I love it. I love it. You know, I learned a really useful tip from you. I know I probably told you back then. We had one of our last meetings shortly after you got started, and you shared with me that you change or refresh the batteries in all of your detectors at like a set time of the year, kind of thing, right?
That's right.
Yeah, and I was like, that is genius. Don't wait for it to start beeping at you and you can't figure out which one it is. Just put it on a schedule. I don't know why I've not adulted apparently well in my life. So, anyways, I just wanted to tell you, like that was genius, and my husband and I do that now. So.
Well, I'm glad you got something. I'm glad I was able to teach you something.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not just education here with us here at Sydney. We learn a lot. So.
And I've really appreciated, Joseph, your mentorship as another colleague in education. Even though I'm on the private side, learning how to work, I guess, help with principals and helping them kind of get started. Your advice, I would say, since we've started working together, has been really great because it's helped me help more customers. So I just want to appreciate that. We've got a lot to celebrate over on your campus, your teachers and everyone all the way down the list. Joseph, you want to tell us a little about our story over at Kimberly?
Yes. So, and it's a wonderful story to tell that is still happening. Like, we are still evolving at Kimberly Elementary School to hopefully one day, well, not hopefully, we are working toward being, the premier learning institution within the state of Georgia. That's what we're working toward. Okay.
Yes.
But I'll tell you, so I came to Kimberly Elementary School 7 years ago as a principal here. I had already been a principal for about 6 years. And this was a new experience for me, one where I actually almost felt like I was kind of starting over as a principal once I got to Kimberly Elementary School, because I was facing new challenges. We were a school that had a number of years of being underperforming due to a lot of different reasons. We are 100% free and reduced lunch. We're 100% minority, African American. We have about anywhere from between 45 to 60, depending upon the year, of mobility rate. And that mobility rate, of course, as educators know, means kids coming and going within your building within that year. And with that mobility rate of students, there also comes a mobility rate of staff as well, because there are staff who get this job, they think they can handle it, and realize that it's more of a challenge for them than what they initially anticipated. So about 4 years ago, the state of Georgia came out with what they call turnaround schools. Initially it began as what they called opportunity school districts, where the state was looking to take over schools that were chronically underperforming. And so we began this journey about 4 years ago of transformation and turnaround at our school. And it began really, I always tell people, it began with first changing the mindsets of the staff that were in the school. Turnaround is more than just, are your kids performing better? But it's really, are your teachers really engaging with kids in meaningful ways that are really going to get the kind of results that you're looking for? And those results clearly are just growth. There's systematic change, systematic growth within your building from year to year. It's never to say that, we now have, we don't have 100% of our kids reading, on or above grade level, but we're no longer in the single digits, and we've been able to move our school. So we were put on that turnaround list about 4 years ago. With that came intense professional development for our teachers, for me, We've turned over some staff, to really try to find the right people to get on this bus. You always say you got to have the right person in the right seat on the bus at the right time. And we got off of the turnaround list. We made the beating the odds list. For 1 year we were on what they called a oh Lord, I had the term in my head. I can't remember what they called it, but the first year you get off of the turnaround list, you're on this other list where they're just kind of monitoring you. And we were able to get off of that list, and so we have actually started to see a change within our school, and our students are starting to actually perform. Our teachers are more engaged. And so that's kind of our story. Like, we've just been excited about the fact that that we have changed the trajectory of our performance at our school and increased life chances for kids here at Kimberly Elementary School.
Wow, way to go.
Yeah.
Congratulations to you all. And that takes real leadership, and that takes real, obviously followership, and just, I would just say, just kind of like that warrior spirit from everybody. And I think what I really liked about everybody that I've gotten to engage with at Kimberly is everybody said we can be whatever we resolve to be. And everybody has resolved to be an outstanding school. And you guys are definitely on that trajectory, and the merits speak for themselves.
Well, it's definitely a indicator of collective efficacy, right? Like, that's the number one thing that John Hattie says that schools can facilitate and build a culture of to have the biggest impact. And so it definitely sounds like that's a big part of your journey: growth mindset, collective efficacy, and just commitment to your students and growing.
It really is. And it's done in so many different ways, from the individual student level in the classroom to the teachers that I have that are supporting students and teachers. I've been lucky enough to be able to create positions of reading and math specialists within my building that actually support some of my lowest performing kids, but at the same time mentor and co-teach with teachers in the classroom as well. So they not only serve as support systems for students, but they also serve as a support for staff as well. And that, along with just the work that happens in our PLCs, it's just been phenomenal in our building. It's really made a big difference in just how we see kids and how we see our work here at Kimberly.
Yeah, definitely.
So we got to have a panel discussion last week with Dr. Justin Bader of the Principal Center and a few other users of Sydney or from around the country. Joseph, what was that like? And because we had a really full room, and we got to hear a lot of stories, and we got a lot of good questions. What was that like for you?
We did. So first off, I just want to say thank you to Sydney for even allowing me to be a part of that experience. That was great for me. It actually got my mind thinking about other things that I might be able to do and say, and how what other opportunities to tell my story. But I will say the best part about that experience for me, there were two great things about that experience. One was being able to learn from the panel. I think I said to you, Brian, in one of our evening conversations that I actually got more from the panel than I did even from some of the sessions I went to, just because I was talking with other people who were on the same journey as I was of turnaround and transformation within their schools, and how they utilize SIDME to be able to support that work. And so I was, jotting down in my notebook. I have a notebook that I use, and I was jotting down in my notebook ideas that other principals were using in their schools, principals and coaches, because there were not just principals on the panel, but principals and coaches were using in their schools to implement SIDME. So it was a great experience. I also enjoyed, I love the questions that I got from the panel, because from the members, because you could tell that they were truly trying to figure out how this could work. One of the things about SIDME that I love is that there isn't a one size that fits all. It's really about how we, what our vision is for transformation in our building, and then how we see video kind of supporting that. And that looks different every place, from union states to non-union states, from a principal perspective to a coach perspective, from an individual teacher perspective to a whole school kind of usage, to PLC usage, to just instructional practices themselves. So I think that that was eye-opening and I guess revealing and affirming for me,
Mm-hmm.
as a user of SIBME and, as a person in the struggle.
There was definitely like this discussion of how the teams were, realized they needed different activities to do things together, but this was definitely moving teams forward, and that was kind of really cool.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Cory.
Yeah. So with that in mind, what are your, and I'm adjusting the question right now because you kind of gave us your takeaways, which was what I was going to ask you. So what are your next steps then? Like, what are you going to be putting into action with your campus? What are you bringing back to them and sharing with them from that conference?
So we are, one of the things that I'm looking at doing right now differently with SIBME. So we started off using SIBME as a way to have a coach and a coachee kind of support each other in their professional growth. So I talked about my specialists that I utilized in my building, and they actually were paired with a particular teacher that they were supporting. Well, now we're moving to how can my school-based leadership team actually utilize SIBME as a way to enhance our professional development. So what we started doing is now recording some of our PLCs to actually be able to give feedback on the PLC. So my coaches will get support. And these coaches I'm talking about are the instructional coaches, not necessarily the teacher coaches, because we use that term kind of broadly. But my instructional coaches will have their PLC sessions recorded. And then when we meet in our weekly instructional leadership team meetings, which includes my coaches and the APs and the special ed lead teacher and counselor, we can then give feedback on those sessions as well. So that's going to be the evolution of SIBME within our building while we still strengthen teacher usage. I mentioned earlier to you about, turnover in staff, and that has a big impact on what happens in your school, especially when you're rolling out new initiatives. And so last year was my first year with SIBME. I had a very strong group of reading and math specialists who were just like, racing and utilizing it, very strongly. And then each of them got promotions. Like that's literally what happened. Yeah. Like all of them got a promotion. So then I have new people who are doing this. And so in selling them on it and really getting them to trust, because they weren't with me at the onset, you have to build that trust with them to let them know that, hey, this is a tool that we're using to support, not a tool for any kind of evaluation, all that kind of thing. So now we're reigniting that fire with them about how video can actually support the growth within the classroom. So we have two different lenses that we're going to be looking at SIBME now through. One through the school-wide PLC, and then the other through the lens of the individual classroom.
And I love that. That's reminds me. It's snowing outside. As a Texan in the Midwest, when it snows, I'm like, oh, so I'm going to be highly distracted. But it reminds me actually the next step of recording those PLCs to look at how those specialists are facilitating those as well. It's almost exactly one of the missions we have in our new SIBME mission cards. And that is a great use of video. It's usually an afterthought or, the second phase of things to focus in on our own leadership skills and our own practices, utilizing video to record a coaching session that, where you're having the post-observation conference with the teacher and you're recording that. So as the coach, you can look back and see, how did I facilitate that conversation? Was I asking guiding questions or leading questions? What's the body language look like? Those are all really powerful things that you can use to grow yourself professionally as a leader or to grow your leadership team. Calibrating on look-fors. And you're not the only campus that I heard of that's going to be recording PLC meetings in that manner to kind of look at how are we facilitating these? Are these effective meetings? Is everybody participating well? What can we do differently for this? I think it's, Brian, one of your other campuses in Dothan is working on this. They're looking at completely revamping their PLCs, and they're kind of starting with an activity like that. So I love to hear that. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Thank you.
So some of the things that you do, I mean, as kind of, you're a cluster leader in Atlanta. You're mentoring other principals that are, and we have some principals that will be getting started with SIBME in a pilot capacity this January. What advice would you give them? Because we got kind of the second half of the school year going. We've got a few months of instruction before we get to testing. what advice would you offer to those folks?
Right. So some advice that I would give from my own experience, and then even some things that I heard on the panel when we were in St. Louis would be, so from my own experience, I would say start small, to really be able to find you some volunteers even. So like to take it from the panel conversation, I know Mike Fumagalli mentioned, giving people an option to volunteer to be a participant utilizing SIPME. So I would say start small, have some volunteers that actually want to utilize it, so that way they can become your cheerleaders for SIPME. I think also being clear at the onset that this is not an evaluative tool. I think it's very, very important. Teachers must trust that you're only using SIPME as a means for them to grow professionally themselves. Okay. And I think another thing might be to not be afraid to film yourself. So that's something that I think, and I heard that even on the panel, that was something I think that Dr. Goree mentioned, when she was on the panel. So they're not here with us today. I want to make sure I give some shout outs to my folk that were with me. And so, but that was something that she mentioned as far as, making sure that you create that shared sense of vulnerability within your building, and that you're okay with being filmed, or either your coaches, or an AP, so that way they can see that the leadership of the school is also being vulnerable during this time. So those are some things that I would say to start.
Yeah, and that's powerful to walk that walk right alongside. I mean, I think that's when campuses like yours start, you kind of start with that teacher focused lens, and then you start to look at it a little bit more beyond that. We typically see a big jump in activity across all levels, because they're like, oh, well, my leadership is doing this as well. And so like they're in it. And so now I'm going to dig in. This is just becoming the way that we do things, becoming a part of the culture, that's that reflective practice. And that's one of the main ways to do it. So that's really powerful. I love that. And yeah, you had an amazing group of people and peers in that panel. I was really jealous that I was not at that conference this year, because I know that was some pretty good gold that happened there. So
yeah, great people. I enjoyed getting to know them, getting to meet them, and because of course, Mike and I were staying in the same place, I was able, we've now connected. And so I know that I'll have a good friend and thought partner.
Yeah. And, that's one of the things that we're looking at in the new year here at SIPME, is looking for some additional ways to continue to connect our community of users across campuses and districts and states. So, and even across nations, because we're in an international with our country.
International.
So, yeah. Yeah.
I'm waiting on one of those international trips, Brian.
Yeah, that's right.
I've got the request in already, Joseph. I've already got it in.
Brian asked for a lot of stuff.
I got the business case together too. So, Joseph, thanks for coming on today. I think we're gonna get into our shout outs, and first shouting out to all the hard chargers over at Kimberly Elementary. Congratulations on your growth and your movement. Cory, who's your shout out for this week?
Yeah, so we got to have a little gift to go with it. We're gonna be shouting out. Yesterday we wrapped up our 4th focus group. It was our biggest focus group. We had people across from K-12 to consulting organizations to higher ed. We've been looking at introducing a brand new kind of feature, which we're really excited about, and then also improving our analytics to make those more meaningful, more available for our users. So I just want to shout out to all of our customers. We had quite a few really, really invested participants who are customers who are really invested in just kind of helping the platform work better, not just better for them, but really for everybody who kind of touches it. So it was really exciting. It's one of our favorite things to do, are those focus groups, and get that feedback on, what we don't have that would be really valuable, and what we have that needs to be improved, and all the ideas that we have. So I know we went in with some initial ideas of this new feature, and it's completely transformed into this amazing thing. So I'm excited to see how our dev team takes that in the new year and begins to work on that. So thanks for everyone who participated in those focus groups and who continues to share feedback with us.
Excellent. Yeah, from what I understand, Dave, our CEO, will be on a listening tour this upcoming semester with a lot of our customers, and he and I will be working together on that. So if you want to be on Dave's listening tour, shoot me a text, send me an email. I'll get you on there because I love filling up Dave's schedule.
Yeah.
So,
oh, yeah.
The next folks, I had a nice virtual coffee with the director of the Ames Math and Science Center last week, and I'm so proud of their first semester of engagement, their work, how they're essentially implementing some new standards in math and science in multiple districts in California. It's a very large program, and their work with impact groups, impact learning and leading with Stephen Carney. They identified a gap in their implementation plan early, and they were able to overcome that with some of the work that we did that they're doing with SIBME. So really proud of their effort, of their success this last semester. We look forward to more of the same moving forward. So anyways, everybody, thank you very much for attending today's What's Up Wednesday. Joseph, thanks for being our guest.
Thank
and
you.
Appreciate you. Appreciate you all. Have a great holiday break. We'll see you out there.
Take care. Bye-bye.